The sleek diplomatic vessel of the Galactic Concorde hung in Earth's orbit, its polished hull reflecting the blue-green planet below. Inside the main conference room, Captain Ta Min adjusted his formal uniform one last time before the historic meeting. After centuries of searching the stars, the Concorde had finally found another intelligent species worthy of contact. "Captain, the human delegation is preparing to board," reported his communications officer. Ta Min nodded, his four-fingered hands clasped behind his back. "Remember, everyone, these humans have never met beings from beyond their world. Our appearance may startle them. Move slowly, speak calmly." The 12 officers assembled in the reception area represented the diversity of the Concorde, some tall and willowy, others compact with multiple limbs, a few with translucent skin revealing the flow of colored fluids beneath. All wore the same silver-blue uniforms that marked them as diplomats rather than warriors. Lieutenant Huan stood nervously at attention near the airlock. The young security officer had never participated in a first contact before. His species was known for their caution, with natural defensive instincts honed on a predator-filled homeworld. "The humans approach," announced the ship's AI as the airlock cycled. The door slid open to reveal 5 humans in formal attire. They paused momentarily, their eyes widening at the assembly of alien beings, but recovered quickly. The lead human, a female with dark skin and silver hair, stepped forward with her hand extended. "On behalf of the United Earth Government, I welcome the representatives of the Galactic Concorde to the Sol system," she said, her words translated by the Concorde's linguistic systems. Ta Min began to extend his own hand in response, having studied human greeting customs, when everything went wrong. The human delegate moved her other hand to her jacket pocket, reaching for a small data device, as they would later discover. Lieutenant Huan saw only a potential threat. His training and instincts overrode his discipline. "Weapon," he shouted, drawing his pulse pistol with startling speed. "No," Ta Min cried, but too late. 3 brilliant energy pulses struck the human delegation. The leader and 2 others fell instantly, their bodies crumpling to the deck. The remaining 2 humans dropped to the floor, one pulling the other behind the partial cover of a decorative column. "Stand down," Ta Min shouted, knocking Huan's weapon aside. "Stand down immediately." The ship erupted into chaos. Ta Min rushed to the fallen humans, medical scanner in hand, but the readings confirmed what he already feared. 3 dead. The first humans to make contact with the Concorde, killed in a moment of panicked misunderstanding. "Captain," one of the surviving humans called out, her voice steady despite the horror. "We are returning to our shuttle. Any attempt to prevent our departure will be considered an act of war." Ta Min raised his hands in a universal gesture of peace. "Please, this is a terrible mistake. We mean no harm." 3 of our people are dead," replied the human coldly. "Your intentions matter less than your actions." The 2 survivors backed toward the airlock, never turning their backs on the aliens. Lieutenant Huan stood frozen, his weapon now hanging limply at his side as the magnitude of his error became clear. Within minutes, the human shuttle had detached and returned to Earth. Ta Min ordered an immediate report to Concorde Central Command, knowing his career was likely over. More importantly, humanity's introduction to galactic society had been irreparably damaged. 3 days later, the Concorde response arrived. To Ta Min's surprise, he was not immediately relieved of command. Instead, a battle group was being dispatched to the system as a precautionary measure. "This is unnecessary," Ta Min argued during the video conference with Admiral Bora. "We should send medical specialists, cultural experts, anything to show our regret." The Admiral's scaled face showed no emotion. "The battle group will remain at a respectful distance, but the Concorde must show strength as well as regret. These humans must understand that while the deaths were regrettable, we are not to be trifled with. Admiral, I've studied their historical records since our arrival. Humans have a particular relationship with warfare that—" "Yes, yes," Bora interrupted. All primitive species focus on combat before they evolve beyond it. We've seen this pattern hundreds of times. A week after the incident, Earth finally responded. The message was brief and delivered by a small, unarmed shuttle that approached no closer than necessary for clear communications. Earth requires time to consider your proposal and this unfortunate incident. When Tae-min relayed this to Admiral Bora, now commanding a fleet of 30 warships in the outer system, the admiral merely laughed. "Let them deliberate," Bora said. "Their primitive weapons pose no threat to our armada. From what we've observed, they've barely mastered their own planetary system." But Tae-min remained troubled. During the week of silence, he had immersed himself in human history, downloaded from their public information networks. What he found disturbed him deeply. "Admiral, these humans have spent virtually their entire civilized existence fighting each other. War is not just an activity for them. It's an art form they've perfected over thousands of years. All the more reason they should recognize superior force," Bora replied dismissively. That night, unable to sleep, Tae-min watched as all human communications suddenly became encrypted. Their orbital platforms, previously broadcasting openly, went silent. Civilian space traffic between Earth and their lunar colony changed patterns. Something was happening, but when he reported these changes, his concerns were filed and forgotten. The Concorde, in its ancient wisdom, had categorized humanity as just another primitive species to eventually be absorbed. Tae-min stared out at the beautiful blue planet and feared they had made a terrible miscalculation. The Concorde saw humans as primitive, but failed to recognize that some of the most dangerous predators were those still hungry to prove themselves. The ocean floor trembled with the constant hum of drilling and construction. 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean's surface, hidden from orbital scans by thick layers of water and special materials, Earth's largest secret took shape. Admiral Ji-sung walked along the central observation platform, her footsteps echoing on the metal grating. Below her stretched an underground cavern so vast that its far wall disappeared in the artificial mist. Countless workers moved like ants across the skeletal frame of what would become humanity's first true interstellar warship. "The Dauntless," Ji-sung whispered to herself, admiring the growing form. Even unfinished, the ship commanded respect with its aggressive lines and massive weapon ports. "Admiring your baby, Admiral," a voice came from behind her. Ji-sung turned to see Commander Daeho approaching, digital tablet in hand. The chief engineer looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and rumpled clothes that suggested he had been working through the night again. "Engineers aren't supposed to use such emotional terms for their projects," Ji-sung replied with a small smile. "With respect, Admiral, this isn't just any project." Daeho joined her at the railing. "The fate of our species might depend on this ship." Ji-sung nodded, her expression growing serious. "How long until the Dauntless is ready?" Daeho consulted his tablet, scrolling through progress reports. 3 months if we continue at this pace. The hull is nearly complete. The propulsion system is where we've made the most progress. We've incorporated concepts from the Concorde wreckage. Those pieces we recovered from the diplomatic incident. "And the weapons systems?" Ji-sung asked, watching as a massive crane lifted a curved section of hull plating into position. "That's been more challenging," Daeho admitted. "Their energy weapons are still being analyzed. The physics principles are unexpected, but we've developed alternatives based on our own technologies. More primitive, perhaps, but potentially more devastating." A test firing on the far side of the moon had confirmed this. The Concorde's weapons were elegant and precise. Humanity's response was neither, but the sheer destructive power had exceeded expectations. "The United Government wants daily updates now," Ji-sung said quietly. "The diplomatic team keeps the aliens talking, but everyone knows it's just buying time." Daeho nodded toward the immense ship below. "Every day matters. 3 months might not be enough." "It will have to be," Ji-sung replied firmly. "According to our intelligence, the Concorde is growing impatient." They began walking along the platform, passing teams of engineers and technicians rushing between workstations. The underground facility operated around the clock, with 3 full shifts keeping construction moving constantly. "And this is just one facility," Daho said, gesturing to the enormous operation around them. "Hard to believe there are 5 more like it around the world." Ji-sung nodded, "Plus the orbital works. Those are the most dangerous, harder to hide." Across Earth, similar facilities worked day and night. Old missile silos repurposed for building smaller attack craft. Underwater bases constructing specialized weapons platforms. Orbital stations, once civilian research outposts, were quietly retrofitted with missile systems and energy shields under the guise of maintenance updates. "Has there been any word from our spies?" Daho asked in a lower voice. Ji-sung glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Some. We have 7 operatives who managed to get aboard Concorde vessels during the diplomatic exchanges. Their communications are limited, but useful. The Concorde is far more advanced than us in many areas, but not as unified as they appear." "And that captain? The one who tried to prevent the shooting?" "Captain Ta Min," Ji-sung said. "He's been demoted for his excessive concern regarding primitive species and reassigned to border patrol. Apparently, he was quite vocal about not underestimating humans." "Smart alien," Daho commented. They reached the end of the platform, where a transparent wall offered a view into the ship's partially completed bridge. Engineers were installing navigation systems and command interfaces designed to operate faster than any previous human vessel. "The interesting thing about Captain Ta Min," Ji-sung continued, "is that he's been studying us. Our intelligence team intercepted his personal database transmissions. He's been researching human warfare throughout history." "What did he learn?" Daho asked. "Everything. The world wars, Cold War nuclear strategies, guerrilla tactics, modern drone swarms. He seems concerned about our potential." "As he should be," Daho said, tapping commands into his tablet. A holographic display appeared between them, showing the Dauntless's weapon systems. "We're installing 36 railgun batteries, each capable of accelerating projectiles to 15% light speed. No energy shields the Concorde possesses could withstand that kind of kinetic impact." Ji-sung studied the display. "And the special project?" Daho's expression darkened. "The Q-field generator. It's theoretically sound, but untested. If it works as designed, it could disable Concorde systems within a 5,000-kilometer radius. If it fails," he trailed off. "If it fails, we have conventional options." Ji-sung finished for him. An alarm chimed on Ji-sung's wrist device. "The United Government Security Council is meeting in an hour. I need to update them on our progress." As they walked back toward the transport elevator, they passed hundreds of workers welding, wiring, and assembling components. The determination on their faces was clear. Earth was preparing for a fight it hoped to avoid but expected nonetheless. "They think we're primitives," Ji-sung said quietly. "That's our advantage. For all their advanced technology, the Concorde has forgotten something crucial." "What's that?" Daho asked. "The most dangerous creature isn't the most technologically advanced one," she replied, watching as massive weapon systems were installed in the Dauntless's frame. "It's the one fighting for survival." Admiral Bora stood on the command deck of the Concorde flagship, his tall frame silhouetted against the stars. For one full Earth year, the diplomatic teams had exchanged messages, proposals, and cultural information with the humans. The Concorde had been patient, far more patient than they typically were with primitive species. That patience had run out. "Open the channel to Earth," Bora ordered, his voice cold and precise. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the somber faces of Earth's United Government Security Council. 5 humans of different ethnicities sat behind a curved table, their expressions revealing nothing. "Honored representatives of Earth," Bora began, not bothering with the usual diplomatic niceties. "The Galactic Concorde has extended every courtesy to your species. We have shared knowledge, offered technological assistance, and proposed integration into our alliance, despite the unfortunate incident during first contact. He paused, noting how the humans remained impassive. Their stubbornness was becoming legendary among the Concord fleet. The time for discussion has ended, Bora continued. Earth will join the Concord as a protectorate species within 7 rotations, or face military consequences. Your technological level qualifies you only for protected status, not full membership. This is our final offer. The lead human counselor, an older woman with silver hair, leaned forward slightly. And if we decline to become a protectorate, as you call it, Bora's 4-fingered hand gestured to the stars behind him. The Concord fleet currently positioned in your system will enforce our decision. We prefer peaceful integration, but we are prepared for alternatives. We understand, the human said simply. Earth will provide its response within 6 of your rotations. The transmission ended, leaving Bora staring at a blank screen. Something about the human's calm demeanor troubled him, but he dismissed the feeling. 20 Concord warships orbited in the outer reaches of the solar system. Earth had no space combat vessels at all, only unarmed scientific platforms and primitive satellite networks. 5 rotations passed without word from Earth. The Concord fleet maintained its position, sensors constantly monitoring the inner system for any signs of military preparation. They detected nothing unusual. On the 6th rotation, Admiral Sung-ho, commander of the patrol division, noticed something odd. Admiral Bora, he called from his monitoring station. Sensors detect movement behind Earth's moon. Bora joined him at the console. Specify. Ships, Sung-ho replied, surprise evident in his voice. 6 vessels of unknown configuration, emerging from the far side of the lunar body. The sensor display showed 6 sleek, dark ships moving into formation. They were smaller than Concord vessels but clearly designed for combat, with streamlined hulls and what appeared to be weapon mounts along their sides. Where did they come from? Bora demanded. Our sensors have been scanning continuously. Unknown, Admiral, responded the sensor officer. They were not there yesterday. They must have been constructed in concealed facilities. Admiral Sung-ho studied the readings with a dismissive expression. 6 vessels against our patrol fleet of 20. The humans are braver than they are wise. Bora wasn't so certain. Order the patrol fleet to intercept. Approach with caution. The main view screen showed the Concord patrol ships moving to engage, their formation perfect after centuries of standardized tactics. The human vessels maintained their position just beyond lunar orbit, waiting. They're powering weapons, the tactical officer announced. As expected, said Sung-ho with a small smile. Let them learn what happens when primitives challenge the Concord. The first shots came not from the Concord ships, but from the human vessels. Bright streaks of light, some form of kinetic projectile, crossed the void with impossible speed. 3 Concord ships were hit before they could even begin evasive maneuvers. Their shields flared briefly before collapsing, hull breaches causing atmosphere to vent into space. Impossible, whispered Sung-ho. The Concord fleet responded with coordinated energy weapon fire, the standard opening move in their combat protocol. The human ships broke formation instantly, moving in unpredictable patterns that seemed to anticipate the Concord targeting systems. They're not moving like test pilots, observed the tactical officer. These humans have trained for space combat. 2 more Concord ships exploded as the human vessels executed a complex maneuver, bringing their main weapons to bear. The remaining Concord patrol ships attempted to regroup, but their formation had been shattered. 8 minutes after the first shot was fired, 5 Concord warships had been destroyed. The rest were retreating in disarray, some with significant damage. Bora couldn't find words to express his shock. The communication system chimed. Incoming transmission from the human fleet, announced the communications officer. On screen appeared a human male in a dark uniform, his expression calm but firm. This is Captain Ho Jun of the Earth Defense Force. We decline your offer of protectorate status. We propose peaceful coexistence instead, equal terms between our civilizations. The transmission ended before Bora could respond. The Concord leadership convened an emergency session. Recordings of the brief battle were analyzed by their top military minds. The consensus was troubling. The humans had developed weapons specifically designed to counter Concord defensive systems. How could they advance so quickly? Demanded one Concord elder. They must have been studying our technology since first contact, replied another, learning our weaknesses. After hours of heated debate, they reached a decision. They would recall Captain Tamin, now serving on a remote border patrol vessel, the only officer who had studied human history in depth. When Tamin received the orders, he wasn't surprised. For a year, he had watched from afar as the Concord continuously underestimated humanity. Now they would pay the price for their arrogance. Captain, his first officer said as they prepared to depart for Concord Central Command, why do you think they want you specifically? Tamin looked out at the stars, thinking of the historical records he had studied. Because I'm the only one who knows what humans truly are. And what is that? Asked the first officer. Survivors, Tamin replied. And the most dangerous survivors are those who have spent their entire existence fighting, even themselves. The massive Concord flagship, Eternal Dominion, led the Armada toward Proxima Centauri, its engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. Behind it stretched the largest battle fleet assembled in a century, 300 warships of various sizes, their hulls gleaming with the symbols of 24 alien civilizations united under the Concord banner. Tamin stood on the bridge beside Admiral Bora, uncomfortable in his hastily reinstated commander's uniform. After being dismissed to border patrol for his excessive concern about humans, the Concord had suddenly recalled him when their patrol fleet suffered unexpected losses. Now they wanted his expertise, but Tamin suspected they still wouldn't truly listen. Approaching the Proxima Centauri system, announced the navigation officer. Human colony detected on the second planet. Admiral Bora smiled thinly. This will be a short lesson for the humans. They may have surprised our patrol fleet, but they cannot stand against the full might of the Concord. Tamin remained silent, studying the tactical displays. Something felt wrong. The human colony on Proxima Centauri was their first establishment beyond the solar system, barely 2 years old. Intelligence suggested it housed only a few thousand colonists, mostly scientists, and support staff. Why would the humans risk defending such a minor outpost? Visual contact with human defenses, reported the sensor officer. The main view screen activated, showing the space around the colony planet. A thin line of human ships, sleek, dark vessels similar to those that had defeated the patrol fleet, hung in orbit around the world. Their defensive line is thin, observed Bora with satisfaction. Just 20 ships. Tamin frowned, counting the vessels again. 20 ships against 300. It made no tactical sense. Admiral, this doesn't align with what we know about human military tactics. Explain, Bora said, his attention still fixed on the approaching battle. In every major conflict in human history, they've employed deception. False formations, feigned retreats, hidden forces. Tamin pointed to the display. This defense is too obvious, too weak. Bora waved a dismissive hand. Perhaps they simply lack the resources for a proper defense. Begin battle formation Alpha. We'll give them one chance to surrender before opening fire. The Concord fleet began spreading into a wide crescent, a textbook maneuver designed to encircle the enemy. Tamin watched with growing unease, checking secondary sensor readings while the main attention of the bridge crew focused on the human ships ahead. The junior sensor operator suddenly straightened in her chair. Commander Tamin, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations at these coordinates. She sent the data to his console. Tamin examined the readings from a region of space behind their fleet. The energy signatures were subtle but unmistakable. Drive systems on standby, carefully masked, but not completely invisible to detailed scans. Admiral, he said urgently, we need to reposition the fleet immediately. There are hidden vessels behind us. Nonsense, Bora replied without looking away from the tactical display. Our long-range scans showed no other ships in this system. Admiral, human military doctrine throughout their history emphasizes deception and... His warning was cut short as the main sensor array suddenly blared alerts. The tactical display erupted with new contacts, dozens of them, then 50, all appearing behind the Concorde fleet. Massive energy signatures detected, shouted the sensor chief. Multiple vessels decloaking behind our formation. The view screen split to show the new threat. A fleet of human battleships, larger and more heavily armed than the screen of lighter vessels ahead. Somehow, 50 human capital ships had appeared from nowhere, their massive forms now blocking the Concorde's retreat path. They've caught us in a pincer movement, Taimin said urgently. Order a retreat immediately. Admiral Bora's face darkened with anger and disbelief. Nonsense. We still outnumber them. 300 ships against 70. Press the attack. Taimin watched in horror as the human vessels began to move with perfect coordination. The ships ahead and behind were executing a complex, interlocking maneuver that no Concorde tactical simulator had ever predicted. They weren't just closing the trap, they were weaving a net. Admiral, the humans designed this entire scenario, Taimin insisted. They lured us here with a weak colony defense. Look at their formation. The tactical display showed the human ships forming into smaller attack groups, each targeting specific sections of the Concorde fleet. Their movements revealed extensive planning and coordination. As the human vessels powered up their main weapons, Taimin saw disaster approaching. The bridge crew was following standard protocols, but the humans weren't fighting by any standard the Concorde recognized. In that moment, Taimin made a desperate decision. He lunged across the command deck and grabbed the ship-wide communication system, the channel that would broadcast to every vessel in the Concorde fleet. Before the security officers could stop him, he pressed the transmission button. For the love of all that's sacred, don't let the human battleships join this fight. Retreat. Break formation and oriente by ANY means puasazavdil. Admiral Bora shouted for security, but it was too late. Taimin's warning had gone out to every ship in the fleet. The bridge erupted into chaos as officers looked to Bora for confirmation or began acting on Taimin's urgent command. In that moment of confusion, the humans struck. The first salvos tore through the outer edges of the Concorde formation. Unlike conventional energy weapons, the human ships fired accelerated mass projectiles that simply punched through energy shields designed to disperse directed energy attacks. Concorde ships built for deflecting energy beams found their defenses useless against kinetic weapons moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Multiple ships hit, reported the tactical officer, her voice rising in panic. Destroyer Group 7 has lost 5 vessels already. Admiral Bora stared at the display in shock as more reports flooded in. The careful formation of the Concorde fleet was disintegrating as captains either followed Taimin's call to retreat or Bora's standing orders to attack. The human battleships began launching smaller craft, hundreds of them, swarming toward the Concorde fleet like angry insects. Unlike the larger vessels, these attack craft moved with seemingly impossible agility, changing direction instantly in ways that defied the normal limits of inertia. "What are those?" demanded Bora, pointing at the swarm. "Drone fighters," Taimin answered grimly. "Unmanned combat vehicles. The humans have been using them for warfare for over a century." As the bridge crew watched in horror, the human battleships advanced into combat range, their massive weapon systems fully charged and ready to engage the heart of the Concorde fleet. Pain throbbed through Taimin's body as consciousness slowly returned. Bright light stung his eyes when he tried to open them. The smell of antiseptic filled his nostrils, a universal constant of medical facilities across species. With effort, he managed to focus on his surroundings. He lay in a clean, simple room with white walls. Medical equipment hummed quietly beside his bed. This wasn't a Concorde medical facility. The design was unfamiliar, more angular and practical. "You're awake. Good." Tai Min turned toward the voice. A human stood nearby. Female, with short black hair and the sharp posture of a military officer. Her uniform was dark blue with silver insignia he didn't recognize. "Where?" His voice cracked from disuse. The human stepped closer, offering a cup of water with a straw adapted for his different mouth structure. Tai Min drank gratefully. "You're on Earth," she said. "In a medical facility outside New Singapore. I'm Admiral Ji-sung." Tai Min's memory rushed back. The battle, his desperate warning, the chaos as human weapons tore through the Concorde fleet. "My ship." "The fleet?" he asked weakly. "The Eternal Dominion was heavily damaged," Ji-sung replied. "You were injured when your bridge took a direct hit. As for the fleet, about 60% escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured." Tai Min closed his eyes. A devastating defeat for the Concorde, but not the total destruction it could have been. "Captain Ta Min," the human continued, "your warning saved many lives, both your people and ours. Several Concorde ships managed to retreat because their captains listened to you instead of Admiral Bora." "You understand our language?" he asked, surprised. Ji-sung smiled slightly. "We've been studying you since first contact, just as you studied us." In the days that followed, as Ta Min recovered, he learned more about what had happened. The Battle of Proxima Centauri, as humans called it, had ended with a decisive human victory. But what surprised him most were the peace terms Earth offered. Admiral Ji-sung visited daily, answering his questions and asking many of her own. During one such visit, Tai Min finally asked what had been puzzling him. "Why such generous terms? You could have demanded much more." Ji-sung sat in the chair beside his bed. "We don't want to conquer the Concorde. We want to join the galactic community, as equals, not subjects. The terms reflect that goal." "Most species would seek revenge after being attacked," Tai Min observed. "We considered it," Ji-sung admitted. "But revenge is short-sighted. We're thinking centuries ahead." Tai Min studied her carefully. "Your ships at Proxima, how did they appear from nowhere?" Ji-sung smiled. "Quantum field displacement. We discovered it while studying the wreckage from the first contact incident. Your ships use a similar principle for faster-than-light travel. We just applied it differently." "Creative adaptation," Tai Min noted. "A human specialty." "I'm learning." 3 months later, Tai Min stood before the Concorde High Council, testifying about the human conflict. To his surprise, they didn't blame him for the defeat. Instead, they offered him a new position: Ambassador to Earth. Who better to represent the Concorde than the one officer who had correctly assessed humanity's capabilities? 5 years passed. The peace between humanity and the Concorde grew into a wary alliance, then a genuine partnership. Human technology advanced rapidly, incorporating Concorde principles while adding uniquely human innovations. The Concorde, for its part, began adopting human tactical doctrines and flexible command structures. Tai Min, now established as the Concorde ambassador to Earth, watched from an observation deck as human and Concorde ships conducted joint exercises in Earth orbit. The once separate fleets now moved in harmony, their combined capabilities greater than either alone. A young Concorde cadet stood beside him, newly assigned to the embassy as part of a cultural exchange program. The young officer watched with wide eyes as a massive human battleship, the Dauntless, executed a complex maneuver alongside Concorde cruisers. "Ambassador," the cadet asked, "why do our training manuals emphasize such respect for human military capabilities? They're still technologically behind us in many areas." Tai Min considered how to explain. "What's the oldest continuous civilization in the Concorde?" he asked. "The Melreki," the cadet answered promptly. 12,000 years of recorded history. "And how many major wars have they fought?" The cadet thought for a moment. 3, I believe." Tai Min nodded. "Humans have recorded history for less than 6,000 years. In that time, They've fought thousands of wars, hundreds of major conflicts that reshaped their entire planet. Do you understand what that means? The cadet looked confused. It means, Tamin explained, humans spent their entire history fighting themselves. When they weren't fighting, they were preparing to fight. Their entire civilization evolved around warfare. We had millennia of peace and thought ourselves superior warriors. We were wrong. He pointed to the Dauntless as it moved into formation with a Concord battle group. The average human military officer has studied more war theory than most Concord commanders ever will. Their strategies haven't just been theoretical exercises. They've been tested and refined through blood and fire, generation after generation. The cadet's expression grew solemn. I understand why our instructors take this alliance so seriously now. Remember this, Tamin said, watching as the combined fleet executed a flawless defensive pattern. If humans join your fleet, be grateful. If they oppose you. He paused, remembering the terrible beauty of the human battleships as they closed on the Concord fleet. Start praying. That evening, Tamin met with Admiral Ji-sung, now Earth's representative to the Concord, in the embassy gardens. They often shared perspectives on the developing alliance. I received word today, Ji-sung said as they walked among Earth plants and Concord flora growing side by side. The Concord High Council has approved the joint expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy. With human ships leading the way, Tamin added. Ji-sung smiled. Who better to face the unknown than those who thrive on challenge? Tamin looked up at the stars, thinking about how quickly everything had changed. You know what's truly remarkable about humans, he said. You're even better at peace than you are at war, once you decide to try it. Let's hope we never forget how to do either, Ji-sung replied, her gaze also on the stars and the future that awaited them all. The end.